I've been dying, itching, and wanting to talk about Deadlock in grave detail for quite a little bit now. Only reason being I haven't is because, well, they have this, it's alpha and everything. And even though there's not an NDA, I didn't want to be that person to end up getting a cease and desist from Valve lawyers saying, hey, you should probably not talk about this. So whenever this video does come out, that means that obviously I can actually nerd out about it. I initially didn't really think that I would be able to get in just because I had friends of mine who were already playing it and they were like, yeah, we're on the new Deadlock game. And I'm like, no, I'm gonna call cap on that one. So eventually they ended up showing me and then they were actually playing the game. So I had gotten an invite and then from there I had been playing ever since May 20th. I do want to talk about a couple of things. There really isn't a script. There's like some talking points I'm gonna go over here and there, but the gameplay itself is very, very, very fun. Now, I'm a person who I've played League of Legends, I played Dota, I played Smite. A lot of the games just didn't really mesh with me. And I think it was just more so due to my lack of knowledge when it came to what I should be doing, what characters I should be playing, what I should be building. All these different sort of aspects of a MOBA, I just kind of got turned off from it. And not only that, but dealing with a lot of toxicity in MOBA games has just been an absolute turnoff. You're feeling like you're fighting against your own team compared to, the enemy team. This game is super fun. And I understand that from people who have seen previous videos of mine, some people mentioned, why are you saying it's a hero shooter? It's not a hero shooter. It's more of a MOBA when hero shooter second. But it has a feeling of more of a hybrid game. And it doesn't obviously feel like a traditional MOBA in some cases. That's my opinion. I think overall that the game, again, is something that Valve has been wanting to do more so to kind of mesh between different fan bases. And some people also agree with the same sort of sentiment too. And I think that especially for people like me that I've played Overwatch, I've played TF2, Counter-Strike, I played a lot of shooter games, somewhat played MOBA games here and there. I definitely do feel where some people could really enjoy this game and be able to properly get something out of it. I understand it's alpha, and at least at this time, there has been tons of different changes overall between the items and the characters and the abilities. And there is some nutty, and I mean absolutely nutty things you can do with some of these characters and builds. And that's what I really, really do like about this game. Now, a lot of people will obviously tell me, well, yeah, you can do most of the stuff in terms of how you play the character within MOBA games. There's certain characters that you wouldn't really expect to have certain builds. Like you can be tanky with certain characters, obviously depending on the way that you upgrade your abilities when you unlock them and also the items that you get. But with Deadlock, to me at least, it feels more like you can shift the way that you play the game. It doesn't really tell you that there's roles unless you're looking at the descriptions of characters, where obviously a tank like Abrams is a tank, that's his entire point. He mostly has items and abilities that are based off of starting the fight, staying in the fight, etc., etc. And then you have healers, which are like Ivy. I've even seen some builds with Ivy that you can just go and be an absolute tank if you wanted to with Ivy. Most of that stuff is where the theory crafting comes into play. And I think that's what's very interesting about Deadlock. It's just the theory crafting with items, trying to upgrade the abilities, the builds themselves, and how people play. I kind of feel like they'll eventually start to mention that there is roles or something. I don't really know what's going to happen with that, but at least from playing the game, there's so many different things, and people will feel at home with certain characters depending on their play styles. So with each character, obviously you have something completely different, but certain characters mesh well. You can pocket heal, other things like that. Be an absolute menace if you want to jungle or be the assassin of the group with haze, etc., etc. There's so many different things, and I've been trying to see if I could play as many characters as I can. Let's now talk about the actual setting and lore about the game. From what I understand so far in the alpha is it's a 1940s to 1950s New York City. There is this sort of fantasy setting, but I do want to talk more about the actual undertones with the game and how there's pretty dark undertones with this game. There's a lot of death undertones, life and death undertones, and you can get that from seeing that a lot of the advertisements, there's tons of advertisements that have skeletons, cursed, demon souls, all this other stuff that goes on. And especially in the game where you have souls, which is a currency, which we'll get more into, having to grab urns that talk to you, a whole bunch of different things. It's very, very interesting. And so far from what I've gotten, this has been one of the biggest factors between life and death and situations that happen with these characters. There's something called the ritual. The ritual is essentially what all the heroes are doing on the map, which is they're trying to fight to go and destroy the other side's patron. Now, the patron is this kind of very highly mystical being in the world of Deadlock. And these patrons are kind of like these weird balls with faces on them, and there's 2 of them. Each one of these is able to grant basically any sort of wish that any of these heroes that are fighting within completing the ritual. And it's apparent because you're able to see, as soon as you start the game, when you go off on the railways, in your head, you can hear your side's patron talk to you and describe more about your character. So there's more of a deeper connection between not only just the character and the world, but also a deeper connection between the patron and then the characters that are getting pushed into doing this ritual.
Haythorn's bloodline will pay for his sins. All you need to do is summon me. This is an opportunity to have your name carved into legend. I know how much you care for the Arroyos, and their future can be secured. All you need to do is complete the ritual.
Your organization has quite the reputation to uphold paradox. Don't let them down. Your freedom, your life, all was taken from your setting. But it can be restored. Abrams, your strength will be a boon to your allies and a bane to your rivals.
This adds so much more world building to the game that it's just, it's so cool. It's very, very, very cool. I do understand that with the aesthetic and also the way that the world is, a lot of people have mentioned that the game just either feels very generic or very, I guess, soulless in some cases. It looks like the style takes a mix from Dota 2 and Team Fortress 2. And obviously the art style is also going to change just because, for one, half of the characters don't really look like they're in super detail. Parts of them are, but other parts are kind of like super unfinished, you know? So there's so much that you learn about that is incredibly in detail once you actually listen to it, compared to just playing the game and, trying to destroy the other team's patron. Next, let's talk about the items and abilities. I know I've talked about this halfway through with the gameplay, and I do want to say that with the items and abilities, again, this was something that I think for me was very important. This kind of ties more into the economy of the game, and also, garnishing souls so you can get better items and upgrading your abilities. You're able to require these souls through minions that you have through one of the 4 lanes. To differentiate between the different type of lanes, they did this by color, which makes the most sense. And at the same time, when you're able to grab some of these souls, just like any other mobile game, you're able to last shot some of the minions to get some coins or souls, and able to deny souls from the other team. This would actually be incredibly beneficial, as I've been trying my absolute best to learn more about farming. Deadlock itself feels more like a kind of snowbally economy type game. Now, I know a lot of games, especially for tons of people that might see it when it comes to games like Counter-Strike or Dota 2, a lot of these games are in a way economy focused. So it seems like they took aspects in terms of how these games work and how you would earn money to become more powerful over time to then be able to win matches. Now, this is something that I think is a little bit harder compared to Counter-Strike with Deadlock. There's so much going on to the point that you need the souls. The souls are kind of the make or break factor in how your team's economy is doing compared to the other team, where you're trying your absolute best to make sure to push lanes, but also be able to get the items that you need so that you become more powerful over time to then deal more damage and also be able to take more team fights to then eliminate the other team to continue to push and then be able to kill the patron. Over time, thankfully, thanks to the lovely community in Discord, I know there's a new player help channel, which would allow you to learn about all these different type of helpful tips and tricks that you can get for playing the game and just kind of seeing what other people have learned about the game. And I've learned so much, like how there's so many different type of farms and each one has a different level. You don't really necessarily have to be a jungler to go out of your way to go and farm for souls. Anyone can really do it, but it's very beneficial for not only just you, but your team, because over time you're able to take more risk and also have more opportunities when the time comes to possibly be able to win a fight compared to the other team, which is trying to get an urn, for example. Usually urns would spawn every so often, I think probably like every 5 or 10 minutes. Once you're able to get these urns are guaranteed at least like 1,000+ souls when you bring the urn to the middle of the map. What's really cool is is that if you do also have another chance while the other team is down, you have a chance to be able to take care of the mid boss. Now, the mid boss, it would drop the Rejuvenator. Now, the Rejuvenator would be this kind of team-wide buff, which would allow you to go and have a certain time limit. I think it's either probably like 5-10 minutes most max, I would feel, so that if you wanted to go and get into a fight and your entire team just wipes, instantly respawn and you're back into the fight, giving you an upper advantage to allow you to push even further. So there's different methods and ways for you and your team to be able to deal with situations a certain way. Now, of course, there is always the possibility of kind of winning. It's not like it's always a one-sided thing. It might feel that way sometimes, but I definitely have seen matches here and there, especially watching other people in the community that have played the game to a point where I'm like, wow, I did not expect that this would actually turn over that quickly. And it can. It's possible. Now, I do want to talk about, again, just more so the aspects of the game, which is MOBA parts and shooter and stuff like that. I do want to say that I get it. I do understand now, especially playing the game and have been playing for, let's see, let me actually pull this up. How long I've been playing the game for? Over 35.8 hours, which is probably going to be increased by the time this comes out, that this game is more heavily MOBA focused. I understand that a lot of news outlets and other people are going to say this game is a 6v6 hero shooter with MOBA elements. And that was the main thing that especially people like me, which I had not gotten into until May 20th, to actually experience that. Again, there's so many other different aspects in there, but when it comes to it being more so taken from ideas of a MOBA, it is there. It's just that, at least to me and even my friends, it doesn't fully 100% feel like a traditional MOBA, which is understandable. And again, this is something personally that I feel about too. Overall, I think with this game, reception, I know and I understand that a lot of people, including probably some of these people that have been watching me now, watching some of the videos I've been talking about Deadlock, kind of changed entirely when it comes to the game. A ton of people have been getting invited, and I think more and more people have been getting keys to get to this game, because last time I was in, I think it was only around like 1,000 people, and now it's around 3,000 and growing. It's probably like 4,000 now. So there's so many people that are getting their hands on Deadlock and getting a chance to be able to play it. And at the same time, some people are getting convinced that this is really good. Now, again, there is so much potential here, just because one of the more recent things I've seen on the Deadlock server is people were learning how to actually create their own dedicated servers. So people who were kind of stuck in EU and weren't able to play on Pacific time, which is again like Seattle, California, like West Coast time, and it's like 1 a.m. for them. They just said, why don't we just create our own servers? So they figured that out, and that's what they've been doing and having a blast doing that too. There's so much that's going on with this game. I think the game itself does have a lot of potential. Of course, it's definitely going to get flack from a lot of other issues that are glaring, and hopefully by the time that this video will come out and the mention of this game, they'll be fixed. I'm not going to hold my breath on it, but I know at the same time, Valve is dealing with so many other different things that I don't know. This game has good potential. It's really good potential. And playing it myself as someone who isn't a mobile player, which finally it just clicked with me, playing the game and experiencing it and learning about the weaknesses and the strengths of the characters and how do I do certain things, felt very good. And I really do enjoy that. And I think that's one of the best parts I can feel about this game, is that it feels more community based. And I know I probably might get some people that are upset about that when it comes to TF2 community, but yeah, that's all I really have to say about Deadlock. I would love to talk more about this game when I do get the chance, and I've been absolutely enjoying it. If you'd like to see more videos like that, feel free to leave a comment down below. Aside from that, if you want to go and see a video that's up on screen, I don't know which one it is because it's going to be completely random, feel free to go and check it out. And thank you so much for watching.